Glad y'all are with us this morning. A beautiful Lord's Day, beautiful crowd. We've got our family from 316 joining us this morning for a couple of reasons, but glad y'all are tolerant with us this morning, and you'll be back to your home next Sunday morning. We're not being joined by the group at Central Valley this morning, just because this is just more about us. I call it family time. About once a year, I like to do a lesson, just to kind of, sometimes I've called it State of the Church address. I've done a kind of a who we are address, but just a reminder of who we are as a family. For those who have been members here a long time, a reorientation of why we do what we do and what we're about. For those visiting with us, and this morning I believe we may have more visitors than we have on a normal Sunday, so I'm glad that you're here, especially if you're looking for a church home, because you kind of get a little inside track on who we are and what we do and why we do what we do. There, believe it or not, there is some sort of rationale or motivation behind the vast majority of things that we do. At least on paper, it's the way it appears to us. So that's what we're going to do this morning, and hopefully you'll leave here edified and uplifted and reminded that this is a special family. I got to tell y'all, I've said it before, as churches go, there are not many better than this one, and I'm proud to be a part of it. And with that, I will say the first thing I want to say is happy anniversary. July the 27th, 2008 was my first Sunday here as your full-time preacher. So Lord willing, next Sunday will begin my 10th year, which is pretty uncommon for ministers in general, and churches of Christ. It's even more uncommon, I believe. Thank you. Now that and $1 will get you a cup of coffee at McDonald's, but nonetheless, it's an important milestone because at anniversary time, you take a little moment and reflect on the relationships that you have and what you hope the future holds. And honestly, that's all in God's hands. And my Bill Perkins' personal opinion and my desire is I would like to stay in the ministry and stay at Central as long as I feel I can be effective and make a difference. Now, the problem with saying what's effective in ministry look like, well, that's the hard thing to define is how do you know you're being effective or not? If drawing a decent crowd and paying the bills is a measure, then things are going pretty well. But that's, I think Christianity and church is a little bigger than drawing a crowd and paying the bills. So I just ask you to join me in a season of prayer to continue to pray that God will show me where He wants me to be and what He wants me to be doing. And all of my ministers, we talk a lot about how do you know if you're in the right place. And one of the measures that I think about is when it becomes just a job. And it can. Ministry can become just a job where you get up and you go punch in on Monday morning, you dread going to church on Sunday. When those things happen, it's time to do something else. And I hope that day doesn't come for me anytime in the near future. But thank you all. It's been a good 9 years, a lot of great friendships here, a lot of love. Y'all have blessed my family in more ways than I can count. And I believe God has blessed us as a church family in more ways than we can all count. So, Central Church of Christ. If you can read the logo, if you paid any attention at all to it, that's our image, that's our motto, that's our love God, love each other, and serve the world. That's what we are about. That's who we are. That is our DNA. So that's what I want you to understand this morning before you leave here. Our guiding principles, this concept comes from Matthew chapter 22. Matthew chapter 22, beginning in verse 34. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested Jesus with the question, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All of the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments." Growing up in churches of Christ, and I think most religious groups have some commonality here, we have lists of things that are important to us, doctrinal differences. Sometimes they're exclusionary, sometimes they're inclusionary, sometimes they're just defining characteristics. Over the course of my time in the ministry, 15 years, when it comes to biblical interpretation, when it comes down to reading a difficult text where there's room for disagreement, where there are people who believe things differently, how do you interpret those? Well, I interpret those through those two lenses. Does it promote, does it help us in our loving God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength? And how does it line up with loving your neighbor as yourself? Those are the lenses. Those are the two focal points. And I think when we do doctrine, when we do theology, when we come up with church practice, those have to be our guiding principles. And I fear that for too long, some have excluded that from consideration. And we have chosen to honor and revere. When Jesus says, this is number one and this is number two, if we say we're Bible people and we're going to take the Bible seriously, we're going to take it literally, we're going to do what it says, I think we have to go right there and say, this is number one. Love God, love your neighbor as yourself. And everything that we do as a church family, everything we do has to be focused around, how does this draw people closer to God? How does this point the lost to Jesus? How does this draw us closer to one another? How does this increase our love for one another? How does this increase our love for those who don't look like us? How does this increase our love for the people that are just completely different than us? How does this increase our love for the people who don't even like us? That's what I believe is significant about our guiding principles. Love God, love your neighbor as yourself. The third leg on that, love God, love others, and serve the world. As a motto, it represents this: Central exists to make disciples. Jesus says in Matthew chapter 28, that's verse 19, before his ascension, go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to observe everything that I have commanded you. Those sound like marching orders to me. As Jesus is on the mountain, before he ascends, as he looks at his followers, this is what he tells them to do. Go, therefore, and make disciples. What is a disciple? A follower or active adherent of the teachings of another. One who embraces and then assists in the spreading of the teachings of another. So being a disciple is not a passive thing. And I fear we've taken the word church, we've taken the word Christian, and inserted it in the place of the word disciple, and we've redefined what Jesus had in mind, and we've come up with the concept that good Christians, that disciples, are the folks who come and sit in churches on Sunday morning and do the right things the right way. That's part of it. Don't get me wrong, this is important. Corporate assembly is huge. You should be here every time the doors are open, absolutely. But that's just one component, because disciples are not made sitting in horizontal rows in comfortable church buildings. I think history will prove that, because we have churches full of people in the Bible Belt, and our communities are still falling apart spiritually. We just come and pat each other on the back on Sunday mornings and hear another lesson, get our ears tickled, feel good about ourselves when we leave, because we haven't made disciples, we made churchgoers. And that's why we fuss and fight so much about which church is the right church and how do we do things at the church when we get there. That's not what discipleship is about. So when we're talking about making disciples, yes, there is an intellectual component to it. There's an emotional component to it, but there's a service component to it. That's why when we talk about love God and love each other, the next step is serve the world. Do something about it. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all the nations. Go into all the world and preach the gospel. That is still our mission. Those are still our marching orders. So at Central, when we, as leadership, as ministry staff, as elders, as deacons, when we talk about, well, how do we make disciples? That's an ambiguous term. That may be even a nebulous term. We'll make disciples. Well, again, for a long time, the concept was, well, you come to church on Sunday morning, you come on Sunday night, you come on Wednesday night, you put a check in the plate, and you've done your part. But we've made church attenders. And again, some church attenders who have a pretty good knowledge of the Scriptures, and maybe a little light on the application side, a little light on the love your neighbor as yourself side, a little light on the do unto others you'd have them do unto you side of things. So this is kind of our approach to ministry, our ministry model is corporate worship. And for most people, this is the entry point. If you're a person who's visiting today and you're a seeker, you're looking for a church home, you're looking for Jesus, this is probably the place where you just thought it was right to start. Somebody invited you for the first time. You got on the website and found the church that you thought would be a good fit, and you came. That's great. You come and you worship with God's family. Another component, though, is many of y'all are in education. In education, I'm not an educator except for this church stuff, but understand, in education, there's an idea that there should be some teaching, some lecture, some imparting of knowledge. The next step is breaking that down into groups and discussing it. A lot of that more going on in education now where, okay, take this concept and discuss it among yourselves. And then the third spoke on the wheel is now, let's do some hands-on activity. Let's create something, let's draw something, let's go somewhere and do something hands-on so that lesson sinks in. That's when we're talking about making disciples. So we have corporate worship where we have hopefully an impartation of some knowledge, some education, something you've not thought about before. We have Sunday school classes, we have small groups, we have Bible study on Wednesday evening where we break down into smaller groups and we bounce things off of each other. We hear from others' experience. We learn from one another how that they've been able to apply that. But then there's that hands-on experience. Then let's go put this into practice. So there's mission work in Ghana and India. And this morning we have 15 folks down in Mexico. Some of our younger folks are down in Mexico for the week doing mission work. And we said, but not everybody can go to India, not everybody can go to Ghana, not everybody can travel overseas. Okay, well, we can do stuff right here in Athens. So we bought this little house over on Fifth Avenue, and we do tutoring over there a couple days a week, and we have a summer program. And we have special events, service opportunities where we ask people to come together and serve. These are opportunities for us as a corporate family to make a difference. And then we have prayer breakfasts and retreats, just so many ways that, again, we believe are important to making disciples. Where you have the opportunity to hear a prepared lesson, where you have the opportunity to sit with a small group of people who have something in common with you and discuss how it applies to your life. And then where you can go out and serve. And that doesn't exclude your personal devotional time and study time. That doesn't preclude the good deeds that you do on your own, that you serve out of the goodness of your heart. All of these working together. 1 John chapter 3, John says, this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. And we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Yeah, if we have the resources, the time, the experience, the energy to help people and we don't, John calls our love into question. How can the love of God even be in that person who refuses to help someone out? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and truth. John says, put your money where your mouth is. Do something about it. Don't just tell people you love them. Don't say, go be warmed and be filled. He says, help them meet those physical needs. So Mission Athens is our local effort to make a difference right here in our own community. And again, the Haven, the Dollar Club that we'll do later on in the service. We participate in Limestone County churches involved. The 4th of July cookout, the Full Tummy program, holiday food boxes, Mission Athens Week. I mean, these are just, we try to keep opportunities out there for people to get involved. And I guess now to be a little bit on the negative side, it seems like it's a lot of the same people doing those things over and over and over. That's one of the challenges you're going to get to experience this morning is how can you participate in the mission of this church. But I want to talk briefly about Mission Athens Week, which was just this past Sunday through Wednesday. It was as an observer, somewhat of a participant, more of an observer. Allie and Adam and David primarily ran the show on this vacation Bible school at the Haven. And you really just have to see the joy in these kids' eyes. And you have to experience when children who are white, black, and Hispanic are all together, laughing together, playing together, and having fun together. And I was there on Tuesday night, and some of the parents who were coming to get their children were just so full of smiles watching their children participate in this. It was phenomenal to watch these kids learn about Jesus and the excitement. And to watch our teens. I'm not sure how many teens Adam had involved in this altogether, but a bunch. And our teens just loved on these kids who were not their own, and those kids loved back on them. I mean, relationships were built. We had some folks actually do some hands-on hard labor over the week, too, to help out someone with a need there. And these kids and young adults just really worked up a sweat. You know, it wasn't cool last week. Well, the hottest week of the summer so far, and they're out there doing manual labor. And then there were some folks who had the opportunity to help serve food. So a lot of ladies, Becky Tucker ran the kitchen show here and got volunteers to bring in food and prepared meals so that at nighttime they could have a nice meal together, and they sat together and built relationships and fellowship. And then Wednesday night was our worship in the park, and again, someone counted 265 people on probably the hottest day of the year, Wednesday. 6, 7, 8 o'clock, Roy Patton and the crew grilled up a bunch of hamburgers and hot dogs, and we worshiped at Fifth Avenue Park. Phenomenal. Again, black, white, Hispanic, all worshiping together as one. It's what we're about, making a difference in the community. The next core value I want to share with you kind of summarizes who we are trying to be as a church. John 8. They all went home, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. At dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts where the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought a woman caught in the act of adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery, and the law of Moses commanded us to stone such women. What do you say?" They were using this as a trick to trap him in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said, "Let any one of you who was without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again, he stooped down and began to write on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the oldest to the youngest, until only Jesus was left with the woman. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. And Jesus said, "Then neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin." There's a fine line between one who is accepting and tolerant of sin and a church that accepts people who have made mistakes. We talked a couple weeks ago about messing your spiritual diapers. People on their spiritual journey mess up, they make mistakes. And sometimes churches cast them out and say, "You're not welcome here." Central is a place where you can come and be welcomed and loved. Now, there's expected to be a change, just like Jesus said. I don't condemn you. You made a mistake. Forgiveness is available, but don't keep doing it. Don't persist in sin. I think that's the point of John chapter 8. There are plenty of churches full of scribes and Pharisees that are demanding perfection, but we're not that. We're not one of them. We're one of the places where broken and hurting people, where people who have made mistakes can come and continue in their relationship with Jesus and hopefully find the help they need to leave behind their life of sin and grow with Him. The next core value is unity. We've been talking about this one recently, so bear with me. We've looked at John 17 several times. But Jesus in the garden prays, my prayer, he prayed for himself, and now he's praying for us. He says, my prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message. That's our message, because we're going, therefore, and making disciples. We're preaching the gospel. That all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I'm in you, may they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you sent me. I have given them the glory that you gave me, that they may be one as we are one, I and them, you and me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you sent me and have loved them even as you've loved me. John 17, 20 to 23. Somewhere along the way, this message fell through the cracks about unity of all believers. We've erected walls and barriers drawn circles to exclude people. Central is in the business of tearing down those walls and those barriers. To be a people of unity, unity of all believers. That's one of our core values. And just an advertisement here, if you will. And I'm talking about unity of all believers. Everybody who professes faith in Jesus Christ. Everybody who calls him Lord of their lives. But in a microcosm of that, we've taken on another important issue. That's the unity of black and white believers. In Northwest Alabama, Alabama is not known for a good track record of race relations, and that shows in our churches are segregated. But we're going to do our part to, again, erase some lines and draw people together in the blood of Jesus Christ. So we did this about 3 months ago. We're going to have another community worship service August the 6th. And Jerome was here this morning and plugged this church camp. It's going to be interesting. We're going to have about 500 folks here. He said 300 to 400 kids, but altogether about 500 folks. 99% of those are going to be black folks. And it's great. But he wants us to get involved. He wants to bring some unity in this situation. So I encourage you, if you're in town this week, come by the building. They're going to need some help cooking and serving that many people. Just come by and worship with them. There's some opportunities for some performances Friday night at the courthouse and Saturday at the event center. We've made great strides in this already, and this is just another step on the way. Small groups. We became a small group church about 4 years ago. It's 4 years this fall. Some people still don't understand small groups. I understand that we've got some new folks who haven't been exposed to small groups, so I'm going to take about 5 minutes to tell you what this is. But small groups is not just another ministry component. It's an underlying fiber of the church, becoming a small group church, where we build relationships, where we make disciples, where we serve through the small groups. So bear with me on this video that's about
There are some
90
things in life you can't do alone, like have a party, wrestle, have a sack race.
Step aside, fools, I got this. Okay, I have this. Yeah.
Play Marco Polo.
Marco! Fish out of water.
Ride a teeter-totter.
Oh.
Get engaged.
Will you marry me?
Yes!
Move a heavy, awkward piece of furniture.
Fingers. Too slow.
Or
Too fast.
water ski. Some things should not be attempted without the help of others. Your spiritual journey is one of them. When it comes to that, we're definitely better together.
I think maybe the first line of the video you weren't ready for it. Some things you can't do alone. Christianity is one of those things. As much as you may think about worshiping alone or walking by yourself, it's just not a biblical concept. So that's the essence of small groups. Is as much as I enjoy our corporate assembly when you have 400, 450 people together, it's great. But you don't build relationships in units like this. It's hard to do service things together with that many people. So we come together in small groups, in homes, for the left one's an acrostic: share, serve, heal, apply, relate, evangelize. Service, ministry, study, relationships and assimilation, and then worship. Those are kind of the 5 components of what a small group is. It is 14 to 20 people. Some of ours get a little large sometimes, who meet up in a house with a common, hopefully some commonality. And it's about application. It's more about putting this into practice. It's about building deeper relationships than you can sitting and singing into the back of someone's head on Sunday morning. It's about assimilating new members. And I've found, and my observation is, When we have new folks come, if they'll plug into a small group, they're going to stick with us. They're not going to fall through the cracks. Groups are sermon-based. There'll be a discussion guide prepared from the Sunday morning sermon, and they're intergenerational. This hasn't really worked out as well as we had hoped. We had hoped that the youth group would participate in those with the adults, and that's really incumbent upon the parents when it's small group time to say, hey, you can come and sit with the old folks for an hour, because everybody learns from everybody. So everybody is together from, say, 13 years of age to sometimes 75 years of age in the same group, building relationships. And they are flexible. You can meet, nobody's taking us up on this, but if your group could better meet on a Monday night or a Thursday night or meet at noon on Sunday, that's completely up to the group themselves to decide when they would like to meet. So with that, our fall semester begins August the 13th. Then we need leaders, we need hosts. You're going to be getting an email about this week, and then hopefully sign-up sheets will be out so we can get the fall semester kicked off. One last thing that Central's involved in, Central Valley that I referenced earlier, is our church plant over on Madison Pike in Madison, right there across from the airport. Jason Owen is leading the effort to plant a sibling of Central, a sister congregation to Central over there. It's going well. Continue to need prayers. And I would encourage you, we had hoped some of our members have gone to help plant, but go visit over there some Sunday morning. Just support them. Let them know that you care. Let them know that you're praying for them, and just go and be an encouragement to them. Worship with them one Sunday or two Sundays. Just drop in. And you'll be right there in Madison, some better places to eat or more places to choose from for lunch. So, you know, if that's the reason you need, then please take advantage of that. But let them know that we care. So let's go back to our scripture reading this morning. Churches of Christ have had this mantra of being the first century church. That's just a misnomer. You can't be the first century church because it's the 21st century. We can't be the church in Jerusalem because this isn't Jerusalem, this is Athens, Alabama. So what we have to do is take the scriptures, the teachings of Jesus, the example that we see in the scriptures from our spiritual ancestors, and come up with a way of being the Lord's church right here and right now in our culture, in our time, in Athens, Alabama, in 2017, and going forward. So when I look at Acts chapter 2, nothing really has changed. Well, I say nothing really. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. That's part of what we have to be about, fellowship, breaking of bread, the taking of the Lord's Supper, and also the common meal, breaking of bread, praying for and with one another, a devotion to the apostles' teaching. We have to be a Bible-based church. We have to spend time in the Word. Our Sunday school and our Bible classes have to actually study the Bible for biblical principles and concepts. And what happened was, when that happened, everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together. They had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give anyone who had need. They were generous to a fault. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes. They ate together in glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. That's what the first century church was doing. Those first believers, those first 3,000 that were baptized, that were added to the body, they followed that up with daily study in homes. They still went to the temple. They still went to church. They did benevolent work. They took the Lord's Supper. They shared common meals together. They prayed together. They studied the Bible together. We just have to do that in culturally relevant ways to reach our culture, to make a difference. So that's kind of Central in a nutshell, kind of who we are. Again, I'm very pleased with who we are and where we are. I would just like to see more people bought in. So this morning, if you're visiting, whether this is your first visit or multiple visits, if you're a Christian looking for a new church home, if you're searching for a relationship with Jesus Christ, we're glad that you're here. You're welcome. Please continue to come. If this ain't your cup of tea, please continue to search. Don't get discouraged and give up. Central's not for everybody. I understand that. But keep looking. Keep searching for the right place. And I'll do my best to help you if you'll talk to me. If you're a long-term visitor, you've been coming to Central kind of exclusively now, off and on for a while, but you haven't said, I'm ready to stick with it. Please, say, get committed, get involved, place membership. Some here this morning are regular attenders. You've been coming here for 30, 40 years. Maybe even coming on Wednesday night and in a small group. That's great. We're glad. But I want to take that next step and becoming all in. Central is my home. Jesus is my King. Central is my home church. Come hell or high water, I'm going to be there. I'm going to support the shepherd's decisions. I'm going to support the ministry staff. I'm going to support the deacons. I'm going to volunteer my time, my energy, my resources. I'm going to make a difference. That's where I'd like to see more people get to. And finally, where we all need to be is a disciple maker. Someone who is not only all of number 4, a regular attender, a regular contributor, a regular server, but someone who is all about, this isn't their church, they decided they're doing, we are doing, I am doing, and then telling others. And then telling others about Jesus, and then telling others about the church. Mentoring someone. Reaching out to a younger person, a babe in Christ, and saying, let me walk with you. Let me help you grow in your faith. That's where we all have to get to. Jesus said, go therefore and make disciples, and disciples make disciples. We all got to get to number 5. Please. So, with that, one thing we're going to do, just something different. And you read it about on your bulletin, August the 6th, back to church Sunday. You read it in your bulletin after we finish up this morning. But look around you this morning. We have a lot of travelers in the summer, so some of the people that are missing are out playing travel ball. They're at the beach. They're somewhere. And they might even be in church where they are this morning. But over the course of the next 2 weeks, think about folks you haven't seen in a while. Think about the folks that sit in your general area that you haven't seen, or they're not in your Sunday school class anymore. Just say, hey. They may say, well, I've been over in building 316. That happens sometimes when I call or text them. I'm glad to hear it. Maybe it's all good. But we don't know. We don't know where everybody is. So do your part to help us round up the sheep and get everybody here on August the 6th. We'd love to have you join our family. We'd love to have you join God's family first and foremost. That's the most important thing. To become a Christian, to be added to the body. As Frank led in the communion meditation this morning, to have your record of debt canceled out through the blood of Jesus Christ. That's how it happens. Have your debt canceled, to be added to His body, to have a clean slate, a fresh start. Become a Christian. Confess Jesus as your Savior. Repent to say, I'm going to do better. Be baptized for the remission of your sins, to have those washed away, to be filled with the Holy Spirit, and to live and walk faithfully with Him from this day forward. And then I'm persuaded you need to be a regular part of a church family to do that. We'd love to have you, but again, Central's not for everybody. We'll help you find a place. But if you have a spiritual need this morning, we'd love to help you in a public way through the invitation, or you can catch me and one of the shepherds in a private conversation afterwards. The invitation is yours. Please come if you have a need.